My name is Kristen Patton, and I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and this is my poem called Strength Training. So I got up and went to the gym this morning, right? Gotta maintain this figure and all. See, green chili is the thing where I come from, and it goes with just about everything. Tacos, burritos, enchiladas, stew, con carne. Oh, the gym. I go by myself because I'm the only one I can count on for the heavy lifting. I usually hit the ground running. Okay, let's be real. I use the bike instead. It's easier on my knees and still harder on my heart. Makes it beat harder through this chest. And then I hit the cable weights to get warmed up, since we all need a little help getting started. The average pen weighs about 7 grams. When full, mine, the fancy-ish kind, weighs about 13. That's where the knot in my writer's hand comes from. I'll show you which one later if you ask politely. Now, I can shoulder press 45 pounds with ease, squat 110 with purpose, bench 90 with little help, but no amount of strength training could prepare me to pick up a pen. Joey died at 19, and at 20 I had lost my best friend of 13 years, so I wrote a poem and read it as a eulogy, and I couldn't keep myself together at the altar long enough to finish it. 6 months later, I wrote another about how those 6 months had passed and I still felt the same. The heaviness, a weighted poncho to catch the rain, a bulletproof vest for the pain. Nothing could touch me. Believe me, I tried. I should have been there the night Joey died. I was silent for 4 years. A pen used only to write college papers became my heaviest accessory. I couldn't do the heavy lifting. Notebooks purchased, often left empty, pretty pennies spent on the dime bag he sold. Just never donated my 2 cents to the cause. My poetry had changed. Scribbled lines, spit poems, lyrics, wannabe rap, God, diss. Until that one college poetry class changed everything. Villanelles, haikus, sonnets, limericks, and my all-time favorite, free verse. Free weights, where you have to use your core to stabilize yourself, teach yourself balance, teach yourself discipline, where you have total control over what's at hand, in hand. So why are we so afraid of the heavy lifting? Yes, we have muscles, but it is said that our heart is the hardest working organ in our body, yet here I am, bleeding this heart on the floor after the mind does the heavy work, the heavy lifting. Pick up the pen, Kristen. Pick up the pen. Unload this weight the only way you know how. Bleed ink onto paper, blood, sweat, tears. Show them. Scribble the lines you hope make sense to someone else later. Or even just to you. This cathartic release meant for all to hear, but still a mental game for one to push through. My strength doesn't just show up in the gym. It shows up through this pen. So give me the weights. Let's go to the gym. So yeah, that's my poem, Strength Training, and this one's called Hugs. You asked me to feel vulnerable, so you put your arms around me and I tried to pull away, but you wouldn't let me. You forced me to hug you back. You see, I don't like to be hugged, but if you're gonna hug me like I'm your best fucking friend and we haven't seen each other in ages. Hug me like I'm the last person on earth. Hug me tight. Because little do you know you're helping hold my pieces together when I really just want to crumble. I fucking hate to be hugged. I hate to be touched. Because anyone I have ever loved has left, and if I loved me, I'd leave me too. I've got so much mental issues that a hug can't fix, that a kiss can't fix, that a fuck can't fix in these pieces. They can't be fixed. They can be swept up and put into a box, yes, but they can't be fixed. They can't be mended. Sometimes I feel like I can't be saved. Maybe I don't want to be saved. Because only you can save you, and saving me seems out of reach. And sometimes I want to write the words I'm sorry on a piece of paper for everyone to read, but that's not me. So if you're going to hug me like I'm your best fucking friend. Hug me like I'm the last person on earth, because little do you know that hug just might save this girl. Thank you. My last poem is called Unsent Love Letter. Love letters don't generally start off with an apology, but our love story should have. I knew I was broken, knew you needed healing, and I chose your bones, your heart, over mine. The dirt you stand on is soft, unstable, foundations ready to crumble, no warning, this heart, a mudslide after years of erosion, tears, flood. This vessel no longer seaworthy, a captain sunken with their ship. But can I tell you about these hands? How they will mold you into something beautiful. While my arms may be a cocoon while you sleep, I have yet to color your world completely. That is your job. Release you when you are ready. There are no strings. I want you to stretch your wings and fly here. I'm sorry that I wasn't clear before that these walls, all of their brick and mortar, are not of this era, have been easily destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed again. Glass houses aren't always made from the stronger stuff, and I've learned to tint windows, make pain look easy on the outside, because you can't see in. The double doors, those are wide open, but I will always meet you on the porch. When I called you butterfly, it is because I wanted you to play in my garden, pollinate the field, bring in more flowers. I wanted to keep you, 'twas no secret. But I knew that touching you would only fade your colors, make you vulnerable. How can I do this when I'm still making my own? How can I build you a house, make you a home, if I can't even keep my own garden alive? There are too many yous to name in a love poem, but oh, how I loved you the most. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marcel Delgado, host of Voices of the Barrio Open Mic Poetry in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and author of Sell Me Insanity. You can find it on Amazon. This first poem I'm going to read is from my book. It's called Our Hands. My hands, they were given to me by the strength of my father and his determination to keep his 4 boys together. My hands, when gripping the hickory of a framing hammer, it becomes an extension of my body, used to nail 2x4s together for a family that I may never meet. Soon those walls will be textured by somebody else's memories. My hands have passed on stacks of cash spent on nonsense like PS4s and 52-inch screen TVs. My hands have held the pen that signed my soul away for a marble red on a desperate day. My hands wiped away the many tears of way too many years, cheap shots and heartbreak, painful and isolating. Estos manos, these hands, these hard-working Chicano hands, felt the hearts of those still breathing on the other side with their smiles, waiting for me while holding on to the twilight of our dreams. Billions upon billions of molecules and atoms have been placed upon the palms of these hands, every single piece of metal, every bit of plastic, every curious rarity, every delightful edible, every valuable fabric. But there is no matter so perfect, no article more precious, no ancient artifact more priceless created anywhere, on any type of world, than that of holding on to the hand of my little girl. I met her when she was only 8. Back in the day, the year of 2004. She wasn't shy and she wore the most cutest smile ever. She was missing her 2 front teeth. For you see, she is not the fruit of my seed. My sperm cells do not fertilize the egg of my mate to create such a perfect being. But that type of thinking doesn't really matter to me, because when she was only a decade old, she gazed upon the glare of the eye on my face, and she told me with the purity of an angel's heart, I want you to be my daddy. My whole entire life I have only been seen as some sort of Hispanic-built monster. My mind was in awe that such a delicate and innocent mind would choose me as a father. And in that instant, beneath the sky's light show, the stars were shining brighter than ever before, I became a dad. I felt the reason to live that so many have bragged. I became somebody more. No longer am I a feared beast roaming these empty streets. My hands, since that night, have become a conjunction that when linked by the tiny fingers of a ravioli princess, 2 lost souls that had never known the love of a lost parent. When I was 10, I had no mother. Our hands hold on to each other's doubts and fears. We feel the emptiness of a love that was never there. We found each other's hands. Together we found the cure for our despairs. My hands that are now owned, my hands that are officially the sole property of my daughter. And in a few short months, she'll reach the age of 21. And I can't help to wonder that on some sunny day, our hands gripped tightly together, we will walk down the aisle of some historical Catholic church on a journey to give our hands away. And all I could do is hope, and all I could do is pray that the spirit of her life partner will be willing to share my daughter's hands with me. Thank you. This next poem is called Americana. I think I'm the only person to call me an American. I've been called a spick, beaner, wetback, Latino, and Hispanic. I think I've been called Mexican American by someone, somewhere before. Still, I was only seen as half an American. My mother's familia has been working these lands for almost 5 centuries. They planted their seeds. And our roots grew deeper than any piñón tree up in Chile, even before Santa Fe was the capital city. But my blood on this land even goes further than that, for you see, I am part indigenous like the black bear, the yucca, the rocks, and the trees, yet, as an American, I may never be seen by anybody. Every single weekday morning for 13 years, I pledged my heart to the Stars and Stripes. I memorized every word in English and in Spanish. I pledged my allegiance in 2 different languages. With my right hand placed across my chest, I could still taste those sweet words falling from my tongue. Yet I'm still not American though. Do you know how it feels to be told you don't belong in this country? Yes, my father, he crossed the border illegally. He went by the alias name of Joaquin. He came to this country when he was 17, and today he is 70. He lost his wife to killer disease. He raised 4 boys alone, and he sacrificed for his family. He never asked for food stamps or welfare, as some would love to believe. Yet, as Americans, we may never be seen by anybody. It was said that my people are stealing jobs, even though we are the workforce behind the economy. They spit on our culture and condone the separation of our families. They call our cousins illegal, but how can anyone of this entire earth be illegal? Especially in the home of the brave, in the land of the free. Some think of us with hate and spite while hiding behind bumper stickers supporting humanity. Freedom was not given to my people as the rest of the world was led to believe. Oh no, our freedom was one fighting out on the streets. Protests, boycotts, walkouts, and the organization of our communities, tear gas beatings, and police shooting, all for human rights and civil liberties. Why must anyone have to fight for the right to be a human being? We love and we support all those who serve the American military, yet, as Americans, we may never be seen by anybody. Native American, Afro-American, Asian American, or Mexican American. I believe it's simpler if we're all just known as American. Is it because fry bread is more American to me than apple pie? Is it because every time I listen to Volver, Volver by Vicente Fernandez, I begin to cry? Is it because my heart bleeds red, white, and blue, but my mind thinks red, white, and green? Perhaps simply it's because I'm in love with my heritage, and I'm proud of my father's nationality. For all those who question my patriotism and doubt my being, fuck off, because I'm everything America means. Okay, this last poem is called 6 Years Old. "6 years on the earth in 1985. 6 years old with a broken heart and a hollow life. I remember the last time I saw her face, sitting on my auntie's sofa, and I couldn't sit next to her. No, I wouldn't sit next to her. Because I was scared. I was so damn scared. I feared that her cancer was contagious. The last time I saw her. A 6-year-old kid that couldn't comprehend that this could be the final time that I stared into her eyes and I didn't kiss her. I couldn't even build up the courage to hug her. I wish I told her how much I loved her. 6 years old and I was too stupid to realize that my mommy was dying. Mother, Jefita, Mama, she passed away. On a lonesome night. Body broke down and her spirit took flight. I remember the night she died. I was at my Auntie Charlotte's house and Cousin Carlos asked a question that'll never be removed from my mind. Your mom just died. Why are you not crying? I couldn't cry because my small and feeble mind didn't understand the difference between living and dying. I saw my mom lifeless. I saw her lie motionless inside of a casket next to the altar of Somerset Parish. A face, not expression. Her flesh appeared to be made of plastic. Sympathetic voices with mythological explanations. She's in a better place. God needs her in heaven. 1,000 apologies. I'm sorry. Stop. Stop being so fucking sorry. 6 years old and I couldn't stand being pitied. 6 years old and I saw my mother's casket being lowered beneath the dirt. That's when my world changed. That's when I first felt the hurt. Tears fell like the heaviest of downpours down the sides of my face. I cried and I cried and I cried. I felt the innocence of my young heart shatter. Break in half. Finally, I realized that I'll never feel her presence. Never feel her touch. I'll never feel her love. I miss her. 42 years old and I still cry. I sit and watch her memory from within my mind. Sometimes I lie in bed, wallowing in my own regrets and depression. And that's how cancer took my mom from me. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Scarlett Cortez. I am from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and this is my poem titled Things I Know About My Mother. 1. My ma, Maria Julia Cortez, does not know fear. She is stubborn snarl with hints of Loroco in her smile. If you ask her what it was like riding a beast into the States, she will say, La Bestia has teeth made up of immigrant shards, pero mi cuerpo is an armor made up of my motherland. 2. You cannot break a woman whose own country has led her to look for sanctuary elsewhere. But you can convince her that being born onto brown land makes her lesser after all. Assimilation and survival sound the same, and your tongue cannot carve out its meaning. 3. My ma has actually been scared for most of her life. Because of this, she gave us, her children, the best shield she could speak into existence. She wanted us to be proud of who we come from. So she gave us the names of our abuelos, Vladimir, Guevara, Dolores. But the us we were allowed to share with the world was Alex, Danny, Scarlett, names of which would not make us a target in our Oklahoman homes. When the police searched our house for the first time, they were looking for those who did not belong. When the second deportation letter came, I had already learned how to chameleon the white into my skin, standing in the courtroom with bleached hair, green contacts, trying to convince the judge that my ma, Maria Julia Cortez, was raising my 7 siblings and I to be good American girls and boys. 4. When she was finally allowed to start her path to citizenship after 20 years, my ma, Maria Julia Cortez, saw becoming a U.S. citizen as a sea of new beginnings. But when she stepped in, she drowned in the American dream. When she came back to shore, Maria was nowhere to be found. My ma had changed her name to Julie at her naturalization process, as if Maria Julia was not deserving of the white picket fence, was not the name on her children's birth certificates, 32 limbs flailing without any roots. 5. My mother, Julie, no longer has to worry about being removed from this country. Her biggest concern now is how her red, white, and blue flag look in her tan hands. Spanish slowly being displaced from her new American. Wow. Thank you guys. For this next poem, I wanted to do one titled Misplaced. When you see me on the poetry stage, you're gonna want me to take you home. You're gonna want me to give you an encore of all of my wordplay, and baby, I'm gonna give you the whole damn tour of my house. When we get there, I leave the lights off so I can't be accused of trying to turn anything on. And in the dark, I take you to my kitchen. We sit down on my adobe bench, and there I let you stare and fondle my breathtaking vintage camera. You aren't impressed, so I take you to my room. There, we stumble into bed. I lift the covers ever so slightly to show you my poetry collection that I keep next to me. I can see your affection for me become a jagged line. You will call me a tease. Ask me why I invited you over if I did not want to sleep with you. In a society where sex is everywhere, sleeping with someone has become synonymous to sex, and the only way people distinguish the two is by falling. And I have actually slept with more people than I have fallen asleep next to, but only one of those things has ever been worth scraping my knees for, has ever felt more intimate. Truth is, I am not sexually attracted to anyone. But if you're listening to this poem and you're thinking, nah, she's gotta be playing hard to get, well, I want to tell you that your assumptions about me are misplaced. This hypersexual Latina stereotype the media has branded me as misplaced. The man who told me it's such a shame to waste your body, misplaced. The girls who tell me I just haven't been fucked right, misplaced. The countless people who have erased my sexuality because of what I wear or the songs that I sing, because newsflash, I can sing Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye without ever getting that feeling. I have never wanted to fuck anybody's brains out. But that's not to say that I've never wanted to know someone until my whole body is an earthquake and my heart is the only thing left standing in the rubble. This is to say, I want to rebuild myself with parts of someone else. This is to say, my asexuality is a real way to feel love, a real way to exist. And while not all asexuals feel the way that I do, the absence of what we feel or don't feel should not go unseen. Now, back to the bedroom. I will take you home, and when you leave, I will finally be able to fall asleep. Thank you guys. I have one last poem. It's one of my more favorite poems that I have. I wrote it a few years ago about, my relationships and kind of my growth in, self-love and loving myself with others and also by myself. And it's titled Nice Guy. We all have that back alley lover. The ones we don't write into poems, but the ones we can't seem to write out of our heads. I don't write too many love poems, but I wrote my first love poem on the back of a gas station receipt. The feeble paper folded itself so willingly against the pressure of my fragile fingers. I tucked it away into the creases of my inner thigh in hopes someone worthy enough would one day find it. And I thought that first person would be my first ex. The first time him and I had sex was in the back of his Dodge Stratus. Logic was playing from the car speakers, but my body was only listening to the rhythm of his hands on my hips. I knew He was bad for me. But his name was raw honey on my lips, and when I held him on the tip of my tongue, he held me like a promise he could never keep. But I stayed despite the cheating and mental abuse, but I left the moment he locked his fingers into my throat and would not let me go. Before him, I was taking the blade to my own skin, but I saw how much that was hurting my family, so after him, I learned to have lovers do it for me, because it doesn't count if the scars aren't visible, right? When you're not the one pulling the metaphorical knife. It's been 5 years since my ex told me that leaving is what I do best, and I thought I was over it. But I find myself thinking about it with this new guy I'm dating. You see, he's strange because he's routinely kind to me. And when he treats me nice, I say thank you, and he doesn't get why. But I can't tell him that out of all of the lovers I have ever had, his name is the only one I haven't had to pair with a Hail Mary. Haven't had to ask God for the abuse to stop, because all of the truths and hallelujahs are found in how safe and seen he makes me feel. And still, when he caresses me so softly, my eyes are frantically looking for an exit sign in a doorway or a blade. Despite my internal instincts to run, I really want to stay. But I don't know if my heart was built that way. How do I unlearn the way my body folds under pressure? Not like a receipt, but like sandpaper on raw skin, just wanting to feel new again. But my nice guy reminds me of what I already know, that I too can heal, not a resemblance of my past, and still unashamed of the marks that I am leaving on this world. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rainey Mullen. I am a performance and traditional poet and author of This Still Breathing Canvas from MindWell Poetry Press, and also the host of a podcast called Pen and Poet, where I interview different poets from around the country, many from Albuquerque, but certainly from around the country as well, and even some from outside the country. The first poem I'm going to do is a performance poem from my book, This Still Breathing Canvas. It's called Disease Control, and it was a personal response to what seems to be an ongoing, almost daily occurrence, and basically how I worked through how I felt about it. One does not tell the father of a dying child, now is not the time for disease control. You don't tell the mother of a cancer-ridden child, now is not the time to ask for help from those we employ to represent our best interests in health and well-being of body. When children scatter like marbles on kitchen tile floor from the rat-a-tat-tat of guaranteed freedom, we comfort them in blankets of constitution. There, child. Next time will be different. For childhood should not be stripped before Santa Claus hangs up his red coat. The first lie a parent tells should not be, I'll see you when you get home from school. The first act as teacher should not be, get in the corner, children, if you lay low enough, the bullets may only hit me. A shotgun in one hand, Second Amendment in the other, we pistol whip those with mental health issues because it's easier to blame the ill when you yourself are healthy. An AR-15 costs the same as a year of internet service. The average funeral, 26 laptops. Yet we tell ourselves we can't afford these things for a decent education. Yet we tell ourselves we can afford these things for a decent funeral. Life and liberty superseded by the right to bear arms, as if one right trumps the other when they should strengthen each other. My right to free speech is bound by the harm that it's capable of. After all, it's not words that hurt people. It's the screaming rat-a-tat-tats in a crowded gymnasium that bring a dozen 12-year-olds to soak hallways in rusted silence. We spoon-feed ourselves sugary lies, A primer to make the bullet capsules a little easier to swallow. The lone gunman is a cancer. Sure, we all claim it's just one crazy motherfucker. But how many times do children have to point bloody stumps at the wolf in the field before we realize the wolf is nothing more than a symptom of a forest full of Americans with an erection for violence? Family and loved ones watch from the other side of the hospital room glass, wondering why. Like flag-draped caskets coming home from war, the answer is always the same. They died for our freedom. Children always die for our freedom. But this body is sick. Bullets are antibodies. When will we stop seeing our future as a virus? You won't protect phone conversations, or your own damn computers, or the press, or your right to vote. But God forbid if somebody should ask you for your family history before buying a machine built, designed, and perfected to treat human life as if it came with a hall pass. You can't claim mental health as a cause just because the trigger finger looks a lot like yours. And you can fit an infinite number of thoughts and prayers on the head of a pin, but eventually there won't be any more children to turn to angels. Thank you. My second piece is also a performance piece, and it's also from my first collection of poetry, the Still Breathing Canvas. And this one is called Step Up. It was me working through what it's like to be a step-parent in some cases, and what it's like being a step-child in many cases. My father lost the title of dad the way children lose baby teeth. Loud and bloody at first, pain concluding with dollar bills that looked an awful lot like mom's bar-fying fuck buddies. Most drive-by adult men in my life did not want the job of dad, but each one that parked their car long enough to wave at me wanted that title. They wanted to explain how the disappearing acts they played with their own kids were somehow not the magic tricks we were about to experience. But all they taught me was that most men are built with smoke and mirrors for tongues. I never wanted the job of dad or father or the stone tablet obligations that come with those words. So when I dated for the first time a woman with children under her wing, I asked one thing, please. I don't want to meet them until we are both certain that I will not be the Houdini man who plays magic tricks with their heartstrings. Her response, they have a father. Laugh and be young at heart with two young women who have aged beyond their years because of the hands they've been dealt. Be their advocate, always. Take their side when I argue with them. Be their friend in their safe space. So when my fiance's 13-year-old daughter called me stepdad the day before we broke up, I knew the gravity of that word better than any apple knows how to fall from a tree. In all my years as a child of separated parents, I never once uttered that word, stepdad, because nobody deserved it. I don't deserve it. Now, I may never see those two young women again. That is the cross I bear. But I get to carry with me the memory box we carved out of the splinters of that cross. I get to carry with me the 5 times she trusted me enough to hug me. That one time she asked me for help. And all those times she spoiled Gilmore Girls episodes while we watched them. I know what it means to be 13 and know that the men in your life are not there for you. My partner now has an 8-year-old daughter who has taken to calling me daddy. And as that word catches in my throat, I realize it was never mine to give, or to wear on my sleeve. It's the property of the young voice to use however she wants. If she wants to call me daddy and crawl up between my partner and I will be her safe space. I will cradle that word in my palm as we hold hands, because there are few in this world who get chosen to be a dad. Thank you. I'm going to do a couple more shorter, more traditional page poems. This first one is called Rocks Keep Their Names. Stones hold up names after lips crumble, give way to lost breath, bones swallowed by creatures nobody remembers. We cut stone, searching for its truth. Finding empty crevices dedicated to our soul, we refuse to believe that they rot with the planet rooted in granite. Pyramids in Egypt remained humanity's tallest achievement for 4,000 years. Built of stone, headstoned with electrum, now washed away from memory. Earth's mantle digests rock to magma and back. Water walks through stone, carves the path it wants. Eventually, the sun will bloat, decomposing innards, erasing what is created, taking earth with its dying breath. This next one is called Ship Graveyard, and it's about my grandfather who passed away a few years ago of dementia and Alzheimer's. Mallows Bay buries the dead in an anechoic chamber of memories. Factory worker skeleton hulls, swollen bubbles occasionally let go, flutter toward the living above the waterline, unsure if their stories breathe. Blue gravestone hues so nondescript, so like every other body in the heap. It almost goes mist among forgotten. Grandpa's name, 2 dates, all that's left. Something he never touched, saw plotted in dirt, a piece of straw in a bale to be eaten by fish and other vermin, when we are not around to scuttle their gnawing teeth. I cannot recall anything but his silence or mine. Thank you. And this last one is called Pathos Plants. Pathos plants are the typical spider plants that a lot of people have in their houses that are really hard to kill, and they kind of grow everywhere in your house if you let them. We bring them into our homes because we want something living, a thing we can ignore, that needs us. We put them on shelves, let them crawl over books, along walls, restrict their progress and movement whenever they take their freedom too liberally. Maybe that's why, in the last half-century, this flowering plant gave up producing blossoms. Why procreate or even put in effort for a future you never see the light of day in a home that believes love is giving a passing thought only when you wilt? Thank you. Again, my name is Rainey Mullen. I am a poet and author of this Still Breathing Canvas from MindWell Poetry Press, and I thank you for your time. Stay safe.
Howdy folks, my name is Zachary Kluckman, a poet here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am also the founder and facilitator of an organization called MindWell Poetry, which is a space dedicated to building safe spaces and community for people who have experienced mental health, recovery, resiliency, any kind of challenges in life that may have led to them feeling stigmatized or marginalized. We are dedicated to building a safe space for that through poetry and through art. So I'm very happy to be sharing some poems with you all. I'm going to start with a poem that has a lot of meaning to me. This is a poem about affection and the strange tendency we seem to have in this culture of being afraid or ashamed of that tenderness. So, to the man who asks why I still hold my son's hand. I don't do it every day. I don't even get to see him every day. The moment you become a parent, you begin counting down to this, to the letting go. My ribs are an abacus measured in beats of his heart and the number of moments we have left that he'll want to be this close to me. But in the time we have, we are studying the philosophy of clocks. When first built, clocks were given hands as their instrument of time. I believe this is the clock builder's way of reminding us to hold on, because time is a stampede of horses running straight at the cliff's edge, but the people we love are the parachutes we take with us. So when the road runs out beneath us, we do not fall. We cannonball off that fucker, listen. There's not much of it. So time is the greatest gift a man can give to his kids. My father gave me 3 gifts. A little red wagon he gave me at Christmas. A hand-stamped leather wallet he made for me in prison. And the hole in that wallet where whatever currency he hoped his memory would become fell out. No matter how poor I have been or become, I will never be my son's empty wallet. If all I can give him are palm prints whispered into his hands and memories of crossing the streets, he will know I was there between him and the trucks, pretending to pull the sun out from behind the moon's ear and put it in his pocket. My son still believes my hands can do magic, but I'll leave the escape acts for runaway dads. Those Houdini cowards whose families have been left holding the chains on their absence. I am not gifted with wombs. Do not bleed sacred or know the secret name of the song that is sung when a child's first breath is taken inside of his mother. I cannot swim in that ocean, so this is as close to creation as I will ever come. But every time I hold my son's hand, I can feel God's heart beating. Why do I still hold his hand? Because he still wants me to. And listen, if we're telling the truth, aren't you really only offended because you're worried that me holding his hand too long will cause him to seek affection from other men? To the homophobe who's overly concerned that me holding my son's hand past a certain age will cause him to grow up gay. Fuck you. If my son grows up to kiss sunlight from another man's lips, then by God, I will walk him down the aisle, and if he'll let me, I will hold his hand all the way to the altar. Listen. I have a theory. There is one secret that love shares with the math of the universe. It's the subtraction in the equation that causes the problem to exist. This is true for a man and his kids as well. So as long as he is reaching out, I will take nothing away from my son, especially these hands. Thank you. That poem is one that is very, very important to me. I just think that through poetry we have opportunities to heal and to connect and to challenge some of those ideas that exist in our culture that maybe have become ingrained that just don't really make sense in our world anymore today. So I'm very much a believer that we should take the time to let everybody know how much we care about them. If hate is a choice, then so is love, and I choose love. So thank you for allowing me to share that poem with you. This next one I'm going to do is actually a poem that is an attempt on my part to be really honest and really, real with myself when it comes to this idea of being an ally in the world today, because it is so easy as allies to take space away from other people or to appropriate a voice or story that doesn't belong to us. So this is my attempt to question both how to be a better ally and how to do so while acknowledging my own privilege as a person who was born with far too much of that in this world. So this is a poem called Said the Wolf to His God. Said the wolf to his God, when you look at me now, with the blood of the moon still in my jowls, do you remember as a cub how I chased the sun through the rain? How I whined with desire to own the light with my teeth? I'm not sure if you're listening, but I need to explain how rain finally made sense of the light. The way it bends through a prism of water reveals, even to my limited sight, its nature is a unity of color. We are told this blending of hues creates a pure white radiance. What light creates is not white, only visible. Isn't this what every man wants? What every woman wants, to just be seen? Like any cub without a father, my heart listens hard for yours when the wind is in the trees. When the wind is your voice heavy with things it will not say. The way light wraps around some bodies until they disappear. An absence only noticed by rain, by chalk and blood and tape. If death is a blind child looking for a hand to hold in the dark, why does it stand so often behind police lines? So often near bodies with dark skin? Why does it do this dressed in the robes of white wolves? I've grown to look like them. Born with this coat, with the anger of 1,000 wet birds. I no longer chase my tail or bark at the sun, but I have howled as my dark-haired cousins are hunted for their skin. I am afraid that death will come for us all. Doesn't that make us allies in this fight? Said God to the wolf, hush, cub, you are not the one being hunted. That is your privilege wagging its tongue. Your words are an eraser in the hands of an artist who is uncomfortable with the work he must do. When I made you, I named you with the sharp end of a bone, colored your fur with a handful of snow, and spoke 2 commands down your throats: love and speak. You cannot do one of these without doing the other. Now bark. Tell the white wolves who run in your pack how the light dies if one color goes missing from the prism. Ask them how they will cure their blindness when they have chewed the eyes from their skulls. Tell them they cannot spit me on the ground in their froth and their frenzy while spilling the blood of my children. Do not blame me for your hunger. When has a father ever asked one son to kill another? I have watched you bite your gums for a taste of blood. Tell me, cub, when the men come again with their guns and call the white wolves to their side, whose throat will your jaws find? Said the wolf to his God, I will do as you have made me to do. I will stand with my dark-haired cousins and offer my blood to the moon. Raise my voice to the wind and call all wolves to remember we are kin. When we see the gunmetal come through those trees, we will stand and we will show them our teeth. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's a very important poem for me. I think that we owe it to ourselves and to the people that we love in this world to question ourselves and the actions that we take, and to always do our best to hold one another up and to shine light on one another in this world, because there is plenty of darkness to go around, and it's important that we make enough light together to challenge that darkness. So thank you for letting me read that. I'm going to close out by doing 2 newer poems. These are both new poems from a book that I have forthcoming from the Black Spring Press Group in London. And these are poems that both deal with mental health topics. So, fair warning, the trigger warning, there is talk of suicide in actually both of these poems. So, the first one is called It's Okay to Say I'm Not Okay. Something I am working on asking for. The side effects of a life lived alone. When you steal your own tongue, seal it in a jar, send it home with the child you might have been, if not for its weight. If you had someone who lives in your head 6 months a year who listened without changing their name. Fact. When you sew your tongue to the roof of your mouth with your own lips to avoid goodbyes, you become someone new every day. Someone who forgets how to say, watch your mouth wilt like a flower when it hurts. How many serpents of razor blade can you hold in your throat before the words cut themselves loose? How many nights did I pillow my face with the forgetfulness of breath, scream my suicide into cotton while writing this poem exists, means I must have made it, must have washed thunder from my clothes, the rain from my blood, until the sky, like a champagne flute, shattered its dying rose through the letters of my name. How it aches to pick yourself from a lineup in the closet every morning. If you stand in your own shadow long enough, you learn to speak those three little words, to mean it when you ask, "Are you okay?" To mean it when you answer, "Becoming comfortable with your own birth sets graveyards on fire. 1,000 tombs violent rocking, how the trees applaud like a child with a mason jar, with your familiar face, how this child returns your voice as the bones release their butterflies." Thank you. That one is sort of an experimental poem, including contrapuntal poem elements inside of the text itself. This last one is, again, trigger warning. This poem is written because I work often in suicide prevention and attempting to keep people alive. And at the end of the day, the greatest tool that we have against suicide, realistically, is hope. And if we can find hope in even the smallest possible measure and share that with one another, then we increase the likelihood that people we care about continue to be with us the next day. So this poem comes from that and is an attempt to offer a little bit of that hope. So this is actually called the Suicide Survivor's Cookbook. Maybe one more lived today. Maybe the words poured through me like floodwater receding, urgent rush, then ebbing flow. A softening as the danger passed. A tear that became a mudslide in the living room. An emptying cup. Silt rising on the floor, swallowing the rug. Maybe they walked across this wreckage, examining their footprints as if looking for starfish, proof of life, amazed at the size of their own impact. Maybe the sun kissed their ears. There's no guarantee. This is not the work that we do. The calls come every day, and I curl my hands into fists because the knuckles remind me how the heart shapes its hurt, all blunt edges and hard memory. A survivor myself, I have walked across my own ruins, bathed in the rage of waters I cannot control, a decision that cannot be unmade, like a life. I have been the storm that craves salt and warmth, rebirth. Understand, it is a kind of hunger that drives the body to destroy itself, that asks the light to imagine its own shadow, an appetite for drowning to spite the wounds that swallow. I tried to teach them the art of cooking, to bake a bread other than their own bodies, to feed hunger to itself, an Ouroboros worm feasting its own flesh while the storm leaves the kitchen. Sprinkle the flour. Witness the birth of your hands. Whatever you make next, you do not eat alone. Thank you. I appreciate that. I realize that some of those poems can be a little bit challenging, and I just want to put this out there for anybody who's watching tonight. If you find yourself in a bad situation, if you find that you are struggling, please reach out to somebody. There are numbers you can call. Reach out to me, reach out to somebody around you that you trust. And for what it's worth, I want to offer the encouragement to remember that poetry is just one of many tools we use to save lives and to heal ourselves in tough times. So all of these poems are an attempt on my own part to do that, to heal myself and to hopefully reach out to people around me. So I hope that you enjoyed them. I appreciate you giving me the time to share, and I wish all of you a great deal of peace.
This last poem is called The Killing Joke, and occasionally performance poets will actually come together and do what are called group pieces or duets. And we kind of do the poem together in sync. So we're going to do one for you now called The Killing Joke. She asks me, which comic book character would you be? I pause, squint heroically, and splatter in the eye with my webs.
Oh, hell no. You can't disrespect the Dark Knight like that. That's right. I'm Batman.
I'd be Peter Parker. Spidey sense would keep everyone around me safe. Swinging from building to building, all nimbly-bimbly. See that huge problem over there?
No.
Well, I do. It could come at us at any moment.
Maybe it already has. I'd be Bruce Wayne. All the coolest gadgets. Fast cars surrounded by gorgeous women. Behind my dark mask and black cape, I could destroy what makes me weak. I'm a hero, damn it, and I've got the underwear to prove it. Dun 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 dun. No matter which character
Or universe
we pick, we never play alone. Wherever I go, my brain goes with me. Which character would your anxiety be?
Harley Quinn, asylum psychiatrist turned crazy, gorgeous, quick to kill for attention.
Scarecrow, finally, a good reason for this constant fear.
I could share a moment of dread with loved ones.
Let them see what I see.
Feel what I feel.
An experience they still won't believe. No, my anxiety is the Joker, the smile without
The
humor.
clown waste of time.
No. Prince of Crime. Wanna know how I got these scars? No. Wanna know how I got mine?
My mother was an abuser.
My abusers found me in a parking lot.
It only takes
One bad day
to shatter a soul.
Turned child billionaire.
Vigilante hero,
Upstanding citizen.
anti-everything.
Imagine what years of trauma do to a child whose mental health is not an imaginary friend. Why so serious? We are drawn to the flawed
There's a fine line between superhero
and the villains the world wants us to be. Stigma paints us twisted.
The Killing Joke is...
I'm tortured by battle scars you can't see. We play clowns to entertain.
Mask our faces with paint.
With pretend, force a smile when no one believes our origin stories. Our brains exist to protect us.
Anxiety hardwired for fight or flight.
There's not always a pill or a hero to save us.
No peace of mind.
Just a mind in pieces. Jokes on me.
Can't keep my feet from tapping.
Pen from clicking, thoughts from racing. Nights are sleepless with no backlight in my cave. Nothing to save me.
Except maybe cutting.
Crying. You and I,
destined to do this forever.
like Batman and Joker, one can't kill the other without first killing themselves. But whatever doesn't kill you makes you stranger. 1 in 4 will experience severe mental illness. It's the only minority group you can join at any fucking moment.
The world outside praises
Bruce Wayne for empires built out of anxiety.
Self-hate.
The inability to sit still.
Wags a finger at me, stuck in bed
With the same disease, which kind of makes you Two-Face. The next time you see me, remember,
It only takes
one bad day.
And if you ask me
to fucking smile, I'm gonna ask you, wanna know how I got these scars?